Welcome to the podcast, Chris Graham. On a Monday, we're going to talk with Rod Mullins. We always talk with Rod on Mondays. We talk NASCAR, but we got some news to talk about this week as well. We're going to talk about weather issues up and down the mountains here in Virginia. I'm in the northern part of the Blue Ridge and the Appalachians, where I am in the Shenandoah Valley, and Rod down in Dickenson County on the Virginia-Kentucky border gets a different perspective. We're going to talk about Hurricane Helene and the damage it wrought on our areas. And, we'll talk a little bit about North Carolina and Kentucky as well, since Rod, you had a trip this weekend to Kentucky that we can add perspective in. But Rod, for the people on Augusta Free Press who've been following my coverage all weekend, they know that Waynesboro, Charlottesville were hit a little bit by the weather. We had some flooding in downtown Waynesboro and Augusta County, but down your way, a lot of power outages, a lot of road blockages, probably roads still closed, and issues still here. What 3-4 days into this storm? Update us about Dickenson County in Southwest Virginia. What's going on down your way?
I think for Dickenson County's part, I talked with the emergency management director in Dickenson County this morning, just got a brief blurb from him and asked him, what can you say that we're, 2 or 3 days out of this, anything happen out of it majorly? And his answer was, he said, we kind of avoided it. We were blessed not to be hit any more than what we were. I know that there were some places in the county, the Break Center State Park, they got hit pretty hard with some trees being down on some trails and some roadways. They've cleared those out. Still a lot of people though without electrical power right now. I know for a time being on Friday, I think when this storm was starting to die down a little bit, the wind was starting to die down. We lost cell service, and that's what we have in our house anymore. We've done away with wired service, and we ended up having to travel to Clintwood and sit in the grocery store parking lot there in town to be able to make calls and find out from people, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we are. Um, just a lot of wind, a lot of rain here at this portion of the state. But just to my immediate east, as I look at it, Damascus, Virginia, right in that range of where the mountains are, the Appalachian Trails, it goes down into Western North Carolina. Man, I cannot begin to fathom all these feelings and all these emotions these people are having right now, because Damascus looks bad, but when you go into Western North Carolina, some parts of East Tennessee, especially in Unicoi County, Greene County, some counties that border along the North Carolina state line with Tennessee, they got hit hard, and I don't know if they're ever going to recover from it in the immediate future. This is going to be a year's sort of recovery is what it's going to take.
Yeah, I'm looking at a Associated Press report. We're recording right now just before 3 o'clock on Monday. This Associated Press report is datelined and timestamped 2:35 p.m. Monday. It's now saying 121 deaths confirmed in 6 states, 35 alone in the North Carolina county that includes Asheville. And North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper expects that number to go way up, unfortunately, as rescuers are still trying to make contact with hundreds of people who have not been able to be communicated with since the storm on Friday. We've all seen a lot of us, I'm sure I've seen the videos and photos from down in Asheville and Boone and in that area of Western North Carolina. It's devastating. I mean, the before and after, the water and how high it was. I mean, tops of buildings covered by water, people on
Mhm.
top of houses. I mean, you mentioned Unicoi County, Tennessee, Rod. The dramatic rescue there of 50 plus patients and staff at a small hospital there, by helicopters. I mean, it was just, and it came out of that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That was early in the day on Friday when that happened.
Yeah, and that's something that my wife and I were talking about this, and we have traveled 26. We've traveled 26 several times. She would often go into North Carolina. She liked to go to these gem and lapidary shows when she was more involved in jewelry making, and we would take 26. And you always know that you're getting a little bit closer to home when you get to the bottom of the mountain, which is Sam's Gap, and you get down there to the bottom, and you get into the bottom, and there you are in Unicoi County, and you're in Irwin. And usually over on the right side, you can see parts of the town. I can remember the radio station there too at one point. And then now to look at it and all these factories and places that they had that was close by, not far from them. And some of these things are just inundated. You've got oh my gosh, you've got a Hispanic population right now that's doing work in some of those factories, and some of them don't speak English. And some of these people have no idea what is going on right now. They don't know who to contact, who to talk to. They just know that they have relatives or people that, close to them that are missing. Um, I was putting together something here a little bit earlier, and as of right now, officials with the state of Tennessee confirm there's over 150 people missing in Washington and Unicoi County, Tennessee's alone. Now, combined with that, North Carolina has released, at least the Sheriff's Association released, there were at least two deputies that were killed in this. One from Madison County, North Carolina, the other from Macon County, North Carolina. I can tell you that there was a canine police dog that they lost in Unicoi County. They lost him out of it. Um, there's at least 102 is what I had at that time, 102, but now you said the number is a little bit higher now of the 6 states involved. But there's going to be a whole lot more come out of this, and especially I know there's going to be people that are going to be deceased and so forth from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina like that, but I'm afraid we're going to find more when once everything starts to get a little bit clearer as to what we're going to run into. Just picture this: Asheville is totally isolated.
Yeah.
There are no roads. I mean, the roads, but they come to an end. I saw a picture of I-40 that just it was shocking just to see the picture of I-40 of where the normal road and then totally inundated with water. That just completely blew me away. I mean, there's small communities, Beulah in Mitchell County, North Carolina, totally just, I mean, just isolated from everything. There's people that are even getting out on tractors, doing what they've got to do to be able to clear roads till they can either get people out or people in to where they can start delivering water. Here's another thing: gasoline, people having to use generators. People running out of gasoline, water. It's almost like the Appalachian version of Hurricane Katrina, almost in a much more spectacular kind of way. And I hate to use that word spectacular, but it's like a punch. It's like a gut punch, is what it's been.
Yeah, this AP story that I'm talking about here. The headline says supplies arrive by plane and mule. If that
Mm-hmm.
tells you how tough things are, travel wise, there, yeah, roads are out. I mean, and everywhere. I mean, not and Asheville is a city and suburbs have 100,000 people living there,
Yeah.
and it's a renowned tourist area, beautiful part of this country. Lots of folks who've moved there in recent years to take advantage of an eclectic art scene there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Boone, which is the home to Appalachian State University, just among other parts of Western Carolina that are impacted here. And yeah, and Rod, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, I'm thinking the same thing. Crystal and I were watching the weather Wednesday and Thursday. Instead of watching anything else, we were trying to track this weather and see how it was going to go. And all the attention is, of course, at the time when the storm was still in the Gulf of Mexico, it's on Florida and what impact it's going to have there.
Mm-hmm.
You think about how people were probably just like us watching the weather reports about Florida on Wednesday and Thursday, and now their lives are changed, and not just, all right, we got to clean up a little bit of mess and kind of get on with our lives. People's houses washed away, people's buildings, their businesses washed away, their jobs washed away. I don't know how a community recovers now. I'll say that and then say, I know where you're based in Dickenson County down there in Southwest Virginia. You guys have experienced a lot of flooding issues in recent years. I've
Right.
written about them on Augusta Free Press. With the experience you have of being a resident of this area and a news guy in this area, how do people pick up and kind of move on and get their lives back in order?
That's hard to say. I mean, for a lot of people, it's going to be a thing of some people are going to go and they're going to pick up and they're going to move on and go somewhere else. They're going to move on somewhere else where they feel like there's a chance that they won't run into this. But then you have a lot of the older people that are already committed to staying here, and they're going to say, this is where I live. This is where I'm going to be a part of. And it's like my wife and I were talking about this thing. It's good to live on a mountain, but at the same time, when I live on a mountain, I'm standing a chance too. We had a couple of trees that dropped on us. I was getting ready to go to town that evening just to be able to use the cell phone and call and check on some people, and also answer some people that had messaged me earlier, and had a big tree fall in the road, and so you have to go and clear that. But imagine this for people where I think in a lot of cases, Dickenson County is almost like a predominant, a lot of retirees, a lot of elderly people, and things like that. And some of these people can't get out and get this thing done. And so you've got that happening. And then, for them, they can't move. They've just got to make do and do what they can with their source of income, what's coming in, their fixed income. And, the other thing that's kind of crossed my mind too, all of these people at one point or another, we've been told and we've had it drilled into our head to get flood insurance. And some of these people can afford flood insurance. Some people can't afford it. There's others that can't. It is so expensive. And it's like, why would people live at the bottom or near a river and so forth? And it's like, well, you do it for certain reasons, but it kind of leaves you just scratching your head, wondering about things sometimes, wondering about the order. You talking about Asheville and everything about the arts and everything else with Asheville. That's just, I don't know. I've been to Asheville several times, gone through Asheville, and I have a second cousin that lives in Canton, North Carolina. And Canton, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, Canton had a big paper mill plant that they just the company came in and they just shut it down. They said, we're not making any money. They shut it down. A lot of people were left wondering what they were going to do. And yet they had been blessed at least enough to have some money and some things left over. She told me, she said that they ended up being okay, but said that the new, almost spanking, brand spanking new football facility that they had in there in Canton had been washed away. And I take it that I believe it was an artificial turf field. It was nice, and all of it washed away. So, I mean, these are things that just, there's people that are going to be dedicated to, staying the course and doing this and staying where they're at. And there's going to be others that's going to be like, I've had enough of this. I'm going somewhere else. But, the thing is, you can't run from this sort of thing. It's going to happen. There's going to be weather. It's going to happen just about anywhere. But, you just hope it doesn't happen to you.
I was watching a Weather Channel report this morning. A mayor of one of the towns in North Carolina, I lost which one it was, but his point was, usually people leave the coastal communities in the Carolinas
Hmm.
and go to the mountains to get away from tropical storms and hurricanes. It's not the case where they have to ever, where can they go basically?
Right.
And that's the thing. Climate change is supposed to be the boon and death to coastal communities in the next 30, 50, 100 years, whatever, as sea levels rise and takes over lands near the coast. But here it is in the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains, then South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky,
Hmm.
that are impacted. Yeah, nobody can escape this. And I also put some perspective into this. Waynesboro, where I'm based and have been for the last 30 years as a journalist and all my life lived here, has been working really hard, kind of similar, it sounds like, to the towns in Appalachia where jobs were lost as companies decided to close up and move on. And it takes a generation really to kind of figure out what to do and then put it in place. And you build stuff, and Waynesboro's done on a small scale what Asheville is doing on a small scale, what
Hmm.
Asheville has done over the years to build up on a much larger scale. But it takes time, it takes decades, it takes all kinds of stuff happening, and for it to literally wash away in a night, I don't know. I don't know how you pick up and move on. I mean, I don't know how a community just says we've spent all this time and effort and energy and mental anguish to get to a
Right.
stage and it's gone. I
Yeah.
don't know how you do that.
I don't know either. And I'm still kind of scratching my head over, hey, you don't know how well you've got it in life until you lose some technology, and that's one of the things that I guess gets brought back to me about things with my dad would talk about it at times, and my dad talked about growing up with no electricity and things like that, but it was a common thing for him. He could adjust and go back to it, but for me it's a little bit of a difference. I didn't have that phone in front of me to see what's going on, to be able to keep track with what was going on. And yeah, we've kind of become a slave to machines and things like that. But in this part of the country, we dodged a bullet again. Like I said, a couple of years ago, I know that Crystal emailed me in regard to some flooding we had here in this area. And, I don't know how it is in North Carolina and some of these places, but all of them are probably tributaries, hooked in one way or another with some of the streams and one way or another that we have up here. But, a lot of our problem has been the mining, things like that, of where the silt, the dirt, the mud, all this stuff has come off and drained off into the streams. And used to be these streams were deep at one time or another, could handle this water. Now they don't handle it. And so, you've got it built up over years, and a major dredging would almost be a miracle in and of itself. But then you can't do certain things because you have environmentalists come in and say, nope, 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 you can't do that because you're going to ruin the life, or the life cycle of this particular crawdad or something. And we've had that happen. We've had some things like that happen. It's just strange. You kind of feel like you're kind of tied. You don't know what you're going to do, and you just kind of press on with things. It's a tough way to look at things and just wonder, what are you going to do?
Well, we'll keep up with it here at Augusta Free Press, and I know down in Dickinson with Dickenson Media, Rod will keep up with it as well. I just got a note, Rod, before we started recording about how the Virginia Department of Emergency Management has set up a operations center in Damascus. You mentioned how far away is that from you?
That's probably about an hour and 20 minutes away from me.
Okay,
Not
okay,
far
so
from Abingdon. I could probably make it to Damascus in probably about 20 minutes from that point. So,
okay. So, a central point of operations for Southwest Virginia. But as we saw on Friday with Virginia State Police assisting in that effort down in Unicoi County, Tennessee, we're all it's all hands on deck here. The state governments, the federal government, all trying to pitch in and help out. And it's a tough situation. I know that we're working here at Augusta Free Press. We're going to see if we can find and vet, so to speak, some of the best ways that people who want to donate money can help. There's a local effort here in Waynesboro. A group is putting together a truckload of bottled water, bottled
yeah.
and jugged water to send down. The water's got to be a essential need right now
Yeah. And,
for folks
and,
down that way.
and we need to stress something too. Right now, they don't need money. Money is the one thing that they don't need. And the reason why I'm saying that is because just as something like this happens, we have people coming out of the woodwork, and I'll call them trolls. They
Yeah,
come out of the woodwork, and here they go, and they feast on these people that are in need, that are desperate for any kind of help. And they say that they're going to go and they're going to raise money, and then they're going to give it to everybody, when in turn they pocket it themselves.
yeah,
And that's the ultimate ripoff that you can possibly ever. They say that the Red Cross and some organizations with emergency management, things like that, that's important. That's fine. You can donate there because that is, a proven source. But more than anything else, these people right now are going to need water, just as you were talking about, because that's the most biggest necessity they're going to have to have. Sooner or later, they're going to have clothes. They're going to have some things that are going to help
food.
get these food. They're going to have to get these
Yeah.
things back on to what they're going to have to try to do to regroup. And I think one of the biggest complaints, though, that I did hear from somebody on the news last night, and it was in North Carolina, um, they were upset that FEMA wasn't already there. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I can understand that. But I also see, too, I don't think a lot of people expected this to happen in this kind of capacity as big as it did. FEMA can only do so much. Based upon what I've read so far, state of Virginia has jumped in, to really help. Well, like you said, Unicoi County, Tennessee, they sent the state police over, the state line and sent a helicopter in to try to go and get these people out. And then they're working right now with Damascus and the people along Damascus. Galax, I think, is also included in that area. So you've got a lot of people right now that resources asking for resources. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dickenson County was mentioned in the federal and the federal thing about the disaster relief,
Yeah.
something like that coming from it. So I know a number of counties, Dickinson, Wise County, I think around us. That's some of them already, and so forth. But that's going to be for simple flooding, trees, things like that. But a lot of this is going to go to the people like in Damascus and others that are so desperate needing this.
Well, I don't want to get too political, but I do have to mention that one side in this election cycle wants to get rid of FEMA.
Yeah, I
So
know.
you got people complaining that FEMA is not there fast enough. Another side wants to completely get rid of FEMA.
Right.
One side last week voted to shut down the government before this hurricane hit.
Yep.
We can't. This is the if government does one thing, this is what it's got to do. People can't individually themselves pick up out of the mess that we've seen. When if you've seen the
Exactly.
pictures and videos, you see not just a house. It's one thing. Like my wife, when we were watching the video, said that looked like a tornado hit, and I said, except for the problem of a tornado kind of goes down on a path and hits a few houses, and then jumps back up in the air and maybe hits a few more. These are entire regions of the country
Yep.
that have been washed away. People can't individually, communities can't individually deal with this. We got to feed people, get them water, get them clothes, like you said, get them a hot shower, and then start rebuilding, help them rebuild their lives. This takes days, weeks, months, years. Government, that's what one thing government's got to be for. We can't ignore our people in times of need, and yet, some people would do that.
Well, we've got Whitesburg, Kentucky to show you that at the same time that this is going to be a process that takes years because there's people over there that are still trying to get out of FEMA housing and so forth to try to get back on their feet again. And this has been what 2 or 3 years since all this happened. So I mean, again, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to happen. And I agree with you. FEMA, you need FEMA. The first thing I think that it seems to be predominant in this part of the country, and I guess it is in up and around Waynesboro and some places like that, still involved in the mountains, so to speak, is you start hearing that word from Ronald Reagan, those 7 deadly words or 11 deadly words or whatever it was. I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. I think there's a lot of people that are still scared of that. And the government can only do what they can only do, and they've got to try to help people as much as they can. And I think it would be just totally a stupid thing to go and get rid of FEMA, especially at a time like this when people especially need it. That's ludicrous as far as I'm concerned.
Our worst flooding here in Waynesboro was in 1985, and in 2024 dollars, it'd be about $9 million in damage. We were close. Our water level was close this year to where that would have been from 1985, but because of all the work done in the last 30 years by the local government, the state
Mm-hmm.
government, and the federal government through FEMA, we got water remediation efforts done, stormwater system improvements, a lot of work on the river, getting houses and buildings out of the way in some cases that were constantly flooding. And so as a result, very minor damage this year. A couple houses, a couple trees fell down, which had nothing to do with water. So I mean, yes, it's a process, but if you do it right, you can get stuff out of the way and you can mitigate problems. Not that you could do that. Nothing would have done that in the biblical issues that they're facing
Yeah,
down in North Carolina, but government can certainly be an assistance here, and it's you know that shouldn't be debated, but apparently at
I
the
agree.
federal level it is.
Yep, I know it.
Well, Rod, thank you for your time and your coverage of this, and we'll keep up and we'll keep following what you're doing down there in Dickinson.
Appreciate it. Thanks.